Welcome back to the channel, everyone. In today's video I'll be taking you on a short tour of my UK tropical garden in June. Let's get straight into it. Yeah, starting over in my shady border, the east facing border that gets the morning sun and then shade for most of the day. It's filled out really nicely. Looking at my two Gunnera, my Gunnera cryptica is what I think it is, formerly known as manicata, is in the barrel. And then my much larger at the minute, because it's an older plant, Gunnera tinctoria, which I'm predicting will be dwarfed by this one next year. So both healthy plants. I am still watering daily, about a watering can on each one every day, because last year they did really suffer and a lot of the leaves ended up like this one, dead and browned off, just because it was so hot and I did lose track of the watering schedule. So I'm not going to make that mistake again. This bed is just a mass of foliage at the minute. I'm really pleased with the growth of the Fatsia Japonica. You can see this year's growth. This was last year's level of growth, so this is one season's growth, and it will, I think, reach the top of the fence by the end of the summer. So if you're looking for a plant that really does size up very quickly, Fatsia, you can't beat Fatsia. Also in here is lots of ferns. I'm really pleased with how the ferns are mingling in with the Fatsia leaves. Don't know what type of ferns they are. Most of these were just here, self-seeded in the garden, so I've made the most of them. One of my smaller Persicaria red dragons that are all over the garden. My double trunk trachea is here, transplanted. I mean, look at the size of the cardoon. Let's talk about the cardoon. These were grown from seed last year, and they're in the first year of flowering. And you can see there's a multiple flower heads on top there, and I reckon they'll probably get to about 7 or 8 foot eventually. What else have we got? Lots of bits of bamboo, Phagisia rougher in there. And if you look up there, this plant here, I'll show you some more further around the garden, that is Cephalaria gigantea, or giant scabious. Now these are absolutely huge perennials, got sort of yellowy white flowers, and fantastic for bees. I've grown them from seed from last year as well. And then hiding in the shade down here are my two older Dendroceras littoralis, or actually they're not called that anymore. They're Asonchus. I can't remember the full name, Brassicaris or something. The cabbage leaf, the brassica-leaved Sonchus, also known as the Robinson Crusoe cabbage palm, cabbage tree. And you can see them. If you grow this in your own garden, I'm sure you're well aware of how susceptible they are to mildew. I mean, I'm constantly with a wet sponge wiping the leaves down, but I mean, these are as big as I've managed to grow them. These are 2 years old, sown the year before last. I'm doing okay in the shade, but I can never find a spot that they like. I mean, they tolerate this spot, but I know some people put them in the ground. I haven't got the confidence to do that at the minute. They're doing okay. I have got some seedlings in the greenhouse that I'll look at later as well. My Colocasia gigantea, my giant Colocasia, is not doing a lot. I don't know if it's not wet enough. Maybe I should put that in the ground. Yeah, it didn't have a great winter and it's not doing a lot, but it's alive. Yeah, there we go. So that's the shady bed, which is meshed together. Oh, one more thing actually that I forgot to mention. In there somewhere is the Euphorbia mellifera. That is definitely, probably, I mean, I'm looking at it now and it is growing well down there, but it is definitely crowded out. I'm hoping that over the next year or two that it will fight its way out of there and put on a bit of a display, but for now I'm kind of going to leave it and see where it goes. I haven't got another good spot for it, so although it's not getting any direct sunlight as such, we'll see how it goes. I've got a few pink chinas, colocasia pink chinas, not doing fantastically well. They're in the ground. I haven't got any large ones. This is probably my biggest one. That's, you know, we'll see how they go. Let's look at the central beds. The star of the show in June is, of course, the Nymphophora red hot poker. I've got two types of red hot poker. I don't remember the names, but I did get them as 3 tiny plug plants 2 years ago, and they're going crazy. So I'll probably have to divide those in, well, next year for sure, because they're getting a little bit crowded out. There's my jungle stream and waterfall. I have repointed that recently, so it is now working and not leaking, but I am going to turn it off so you can hear me better. Be right back. Yeah, there we go. So the jungle stream and the waterfall is one of the few remaining features that was in the garden when we moved in. The planting was almost non-existent, but this was in, and I've kept it, and it works. And the plan was all along to plant around it and sort of hide the water so you could hear it, but only see it as it came out here. It was very exposed, and it was in full sun when we moved in, and evaporation was definitely a problem. And what I've done is I've planted Mind Your Own Business, aka Baby's Tears, around here, and hopefully over time it'll grow over the stream and make it a little bit more lush and jungle-like. Here are my 2 smaller Fatsia Japonicas, doing really well, considering they're in full sun. Bit of Yucca. There's one of my Tetrapanaxes. That's just gone in the ground this year. Absolutely loads of Verbena bonariensis. Yeah, almost entirely self-seeded that. Here's my Chimerops humilis. It did get some spear pull. You can see there that these fronds have come out since that harsh winter we've just had. So it did survive. It's a little bit crowded out there, but I don't know, I'll move that someday. One thing that's not doing very well for me is the Arundo Donax. I'm going to go around there and have a look at that. So last year I planted the Arundo Donax and the Miscanthus gigantus on either side of the bridge to make a little feature of it, and I don't know, maybe it's been crowded out. I mean, I have got a lot of oxalis going wild down there, but you can see there's not that many new culms come up for the Arundo Donax. It's these old ones from last year are there, but look how thin the new growth is. Maybe it's crowded out. I expected it to be more of a thug, and it hasn't proved itself to be, so we'll see about that. But if needs me, I'll probably dig it up, divide it, and maybe pull out the plants around it. Over the bridge though, the Miscanthus gigantus, I mean, I love, you know, the white stripe on the leaves and the sort of burgundy purpley stems, and it's grown really well. Should make a good height that this year. Nasturtiums have begun to self-seed everywhere from last year's seeds. I like to leave them and they fill in the beds nicely. This is the winter damaged Tetrapanax that rotted on the stem, and you can see since then we've got one, I think that's got a bit of slug damage on the growing point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new plants from one. So I'm looking for a little bit of advice with this plant. Of course I can't have 5 Tetrapanax plants growing in such close proximity, but my question to you would be, when should I dig them up? Is it too soon to dig up and leave one, or should I do it now, while they're still small, and will they put on some good growth this year? So over to you in the comments, please. I always forget the name of this plant, but it has sized up. In my last video I talked about the Musa dwarf Cavendish, but it is going to go in this spot. I just want to get a bit more soil topped up there because it's sloping a little bit, but that will go in that bed there. Moving on to my sunny border now that gets sun almost all of the day. Lupins are popping off. Plenty for the bees there. I've got a larger Tetrapanax in there. That's my largest one at the minute. And then some sort of nondescript canna that the slugs have had a go at. That survived the winter in the ground. I forgot about that, but it's come back. My tallest and my largest Persicaria red dragon. And then I've got a lot of, see, I don't know what that is there, if that's a weed or not, but I've got a lot of Rebecca coming through. Echinacea, a few flowers to come through, but there's not a lot on the flower side at the minute. Here's my Euphorbia Shillingi that will take on another foot or so of height for sure. Covering the stems of the bananas, and there are the bananas. I mean, I'm very lucky that we've not had too much wind recently. I mean, you can see the difference between the first leaf that came out on that one and this one that I shredded, because we did have some bad weather earlier in the season, but the most recent couple of leaves are intact, which is rare. I mean, they don't look fantastic, but I'm pleased with them for now. Yeah, we've got 3 decent sized stems there with a bit of interesting colouring on the smaller one. So my Musa basjoo are looking good, and they're already taller than they were last year. Really pleased with that. And I'm going to call this my jungle clearing area. So we've got the decking that's for the daytime, gets the sun, got a shade up there at the minute, and then my favourite part of the garden is the hammock. So these are the giant scabious that I was talking about earlier in the video, and you can see there that the bees are loving them. So are the aphids, but aphids bring ladybirds, ladybirds bring birds, and all is well. There's my Paulonia. So it's got this is the main, oh, don't want to tear the leaves, that's the main growth now. So it's really doing well. I mean, look at the height, it really does take off once it takes off. Should be huge this year, that one. Should have established the root system pretty well. My huge rosemary bush there, and this part does need weeding. It's a part that I don't really get to that often, but I am keeping it clear. I'm just climbing back over the hammock. I'm keeping it clear because I've got the Truscea gigantea, the giant bamboo, that will be filling this area. So I have got future plans for this that have not been realised yet. A few containers around the garden as well. Seed grown Sonchus parmensis. I've also got Sonchus canariensis, grown from seed this year. I've not put them in the ground yet, but if anyone else grows Sonchus, I'd love to know where you grow them, what you do with them, any advice or any tips. And then a few succulent containers. Got my agaves and my crassulas. Passion flowers starting to take off, the few flower buds forming there, so we should have passion flowers this year. And we've got the desert patio, so this part of the garden gets all the evening sun, which is why I've planted the desert bed here. And you can take a look. I've done a few videos on this so far this year. It's only a month or so old, but it's already doing really well. Apuntia ficus indica, Hesperallo parviflora here, Apuntia humifusa, eastern prickly pear, And there's my other Puntia vacantha. New pads are growing. New flower bud possibly. Yucca rostrata. Serencia formosa here. Now I think this is Serencia formosa. If it is, it should do well here, and if it's not, it's going to turn to mush in winter, and there's only one way to find out if it is or not. We've got our Agave Americanas here, and Washingtonia robusta. Over here is the Yucca linearis. Another rostrata there, and then over in the back I've got my Aloe striatula, and this tiny plant here is my Dacilarian. Still don't know how to pronounce that, but that's the desert bed. Still no cat poo, so I'm pleased with that. Some people said that it would be used as a cat's toilet, and I've not seen it yet, touch wood. And up in the greenhouse we've got various cacti and succulents, all doing really well. The Echinopsis has flowered recently, they've gone over now, and second flower in 2 weeks for the Lophophora. If it wants to get in focus, there we go. It was open earlier today. I will get round to pollinating that. And this Mammillaria's got some flowers coming as well. Don't know what type of Mammillaria it is. I have already done a video on my cactus and succulent collection, so if you're interested in the types, have a look for that video on my channel. But there you go. So that's it from my UK tropical garden in June, which is possibly the best month of the year in this garden. Let me know how yours is looking, and until next time, bye.